So infrastructure, our crumbling infrastructure is a big problem in the city of Chula Vista. It's a big problem in California. It's a big problem all over the nation. Our bridges are crumbling. Our old pipes that are underneath the streets need fixing, and there isn't an easy way to do that. The city attorney's office and the city manager's office have engaged a process with some consultants, and they're trying to figure out the best way that the city of Chula Vista can do that. One way to do it would be to put a ballot measure on the ballot and ask the voters if they are willing to approve money for infrastructure. That's one option we're talking about. There are other options as well. I don't have the magic solution, but we need to find a solution, and everybody at City Hall is working toward that.
The $500 million worth of deferred infrastructure in our city could have been solved many years back when we had an economy that was flowing, and the building construction dollars were coming in, and the building permits were paying a lot of money into the city. And instead of building a police station and a new city hall and et cetera, we could have used some of that money to deal with some of the deferred infrastructure. We didn't do it, and now we're paying for it. And we've got to get back on track. We've got to get back on the budget. We've got to figure out how to allocate monies properly and move forward in taking care of that infrastructure.
I do not think a ballot measure is a good idea. I do not think we should ask the taxpayers to fund infrastructure. What I do think we should do is that we should go to Washington and say, remember that money that you set aside for the infrastructure for the United States, that $300 billion? Well, Chula Vista wants it. Not all of it, but some of it. And we're gonna get that money through federal grants that we're gonna bring it home. Let's bring our tax dollars home and get our streets looking like they should, and the lights, and our homeless, give them a resource center. Thank you.
I also don't agree with having to put a ballot measure on there to increase any taxes or pass any sort of bond. As a city, we should really be responsible stewards of our taxpayer dollars and pursue a sound budget that provides adequate services for taxpayers. You know, over $500 million in infrastructure costs is what we have to pay for. Ladies and gentlemen, that didn't come overnight. That was by decisions made by people 10, 15 years ago, and we're paying for it now. So we need to be thinking long-term. We need to look long-term. We need to be investing in our community. If we bring the jobs here, if we get the people here, and then have everybody, just like Mr. Vincent was talking about, in allowing us to have people spending their money in Chula Vista to increase the sales tax base, so that we're not one of the lowest tax generators in the county, and that so we also have more people buying homes and putting more money to the property tax to put more money to the tax rolls, we'll be able to pay for these infrastructure costs. We need to be thinking long-term, we need to be investing in our community, and we need to be making decisions that will last us for generations of Chula Vistans.
We need to make our aging infrastructure a priority, particularly on the west side. We need to keep the door open on every potential tool in the toolbox, including an infrastructure bond, looking at working with our legislators to create new redevelopment tools to encourage investment in underserved communities, looking at reprioritizing our capital improvement program. And just quickly to Mr. Vincent, you might not know, but during my tenure as mayor, my council and I invested more capital investment in the west side of Chula Vista than we had done in the previous 20 years. And I also believe that some of our most important infrastructure in our community are the men and women who toil every day in this community to make it work, from the tree trimmers to the public work people, and certainly our police officers and firefighters. And you don't have a first-class police force with the highest standards of training and equipment if you make them work out of a broom closet that's riddled with asbestos, and you're paying out claims for permanent disability to city employees who are working without the equipment in the room that they need. I am proud of our police facility, and I am proud of the facilities that we built in my watch as mayor. They were important pieces of our city's infrastructure.
The infrastructure is a priority. Walking through the neighborhoods on the west side especially, it's amazing how pockmarked our streets are. And what we need to do is we need to, again, bring investment into the city, make sure that we don't spend use the tax burden of the taxpayers for the infrastructure. We need to make it a budget priority, as well as we need to make sure that at Sandag, the Transnet funds, the 1% sales tax that you pay at the store, we get our fair share. When that was passed, North County voted it down. South County was the one that it put it over its passing. We need to make sure that South County gets its fair share. Instead, what we do is we're not getting our fair share, and we get a toll road instead.
Yeah, infrastructure is very important. We need not broken ankle or walking on the sidewalk, broken shops and potholes. There are 3 ways to estimate money for infrastructure, such as grant funding, bonding, and also development impact fees. There's been talk about possibly raising development impact fees when large developments come out here. I think currently it's $40,000 per door. So a little more to that, and we should be able to cover our infrastructure.
Okay, with regard to the infrastructure, we've got roads, we've got water, we have sewage, it's all part of the same thing. I think that the big, Jason's mentioned it, and I'm gonna beat that drum a little bit louder. It's the long-range planning, it's the over-horizon sight. It's very hard to see something 40 or 50 years from now because it's not ours. It's not our kids, it's our grandkids in some cases, or great-grandchildren. It's very hard to plan that way. I was reading articles last summer, and they were talking about the pipeline project bringing water down here from northern, and it's not going to be done until 2051. Who can even imagine what's going to be going on in 2051? The problem is, it's very hard to do. We need leaders who have that vision, who have that over-the-horizon viewpoint, and can make those plans and put them in place so that generations removed can follow through on those plans. That's the hard part. Not where's the money coming from today. That isn't the problem. We don't have the money today, but we need to start making the plans to spend the money. And grants, bonds, they're all great things, but we have to be careful with bonds. Look what happened to Poway last year. We don't want to be Poway. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just the west side that has infrastructure issues. If any of you that are here tonight live on the east side, don't forget that the first phase of East Lake is 35 years old. They're going to start having some issues out there. If you think that pipe that busted on 1st Avenue by H Street and we had a big, huge sinkhole was bad, you ain't seen nothing. We've got pipes like that all over the western side of the city. I think one of the biggest things that we need to do is we need to put the welcome mat out. We need to tell people that Chula Vista is open for business. That's going to generate sales tax. That's going to create jobs. With that comes spending. That money stays here in Chula Vista. And ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake, we had a lot of reserves when Chula Vista and the economy was rocking and rolling. And there's 2 individuals sitting up here right alongside of me that had something to do with that.
We're talking about taxes versus jobs and business. I choose jobs and business. I agree with Mr. Spethman. I think that we need to fire up the jobs, the businesses. We need to roll out the welcome mat. We need to think about, again, I'm going to mention that this SR 11 that's going to connect the SR 125 with the 905 is going to bring an incredible amount of commerce coming right through Chula Vista. What are we going to do about that? Let's plan for the future. How can we capitalize on that? You know, that's going to bring more business. That's what we're talking about. Business, jobs. That way we can generate the kind of revenue that we need to support the infrastructure, not taxing again.
We need to grow the economy, and everything boomerangs back to it. If our economy is generating sales tax, is generating taxes here and creating jobs, there's money for all this infrastructure. When we hear ballot, when folks that want to open a business or create a business or invest, they hear ballot measure, and that's why they go to Texas. That scares away all the businesses. We have to use technology. We can do so much with our phones. Have it developed. There's apps already developed where you can take a picture and just email it to city council or the folks in charge of curing our roads. But we need to use technology and make government more efficient. We're in 2014 and we're still in the 70s over there.
The problem with most of the bonds, honestly, is that the details of the bonds don't get released until after the vote is made. That's a big problem, because people vote for something they don't know what they're getting.
Okay.
Absolutely put it to the voters.
Okay.
I would put it to the voters as well.
I say no to taxes, and I signed the Americans for Tax Reform pledge that I will never raise your taxes.
The kind of bonds that are being discussed would have to go to the voters for approval. As a matter of fact, I think it requires a 2/3 approval. There's no other way to do it. It would have to be that way. You have to vote.
I would not, excuse me, I would not support a bond, but I would look at improving our credit rating and restructuring our debt.
I would not support a bond because I believe that there's federal grants out there that can help us with our infrastructure, and I believe in absolute transparency as well.
If anything, it should go to the voters, but my belief is we don't want or need a bond passed. Eastside residents pay a lot of property taxes with their Melrose. The Eastside residents as a whole are being taxed more and more, and we don't need to be paying for that sort of thing. We need to be responsible with our money first, and then we need to be looking long-term. Always long-term, long-term, long-term.
Thank you.
Bond has to go to the voters. I think it's a decision for the voters.
I think this is almost exactly like deja vu again. There was a Prop A, me and they ran a very grassroots effort. It was a 1% increase in the sales tax for local taxes. We defeated it. 70% of the voters agreed with me and the grassroots efforts. And the thing was, it gave the city a $400,000 bill for putting it on the ballot. So we should not do that and cost more taxes on the representatives. That $400,000 could have done so much better job.
That's President Community College, how far bond funds at work. Wonderful, wonderful vote by the voters. Yes, I vote the voters for bond funding because it is your money to spend how you choose.